gentlemen, and we are live on the mid-morning eruption with a baby doll, aka Wanampopo, and we are joined in studio by the CEO of a Freedom Park, that is Dr. Jane Mufamudi. I've been practicing that surname for so long. Have you practiced the surname, Ella? Yo. Because I was also making mistake. Mufamudi. I was not calling the A actually, so I was only saying that. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, and how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How is the cold?
It's chilly outside, but it's warm in here, so
Is it?
yes,
Okay, ma'am. So we're
yes.
just gonna have it's just gonna be a nice interview, nice conversation, and
Okay.
yeah, regarding actually it's the actual day of the Africa Day, which is on Monday, which is
Yeah.
the 25th of May, ne? And yeah, so as South Africa and the continent are commemorating Africa Day, ne? What does this day mean for Freedom Park and the broader African continent?
I think this is a special day for us as Freedom Park if we look at our mandate to celebrate our identity, to celebrate our freedom. But I think, in the same vein, the continent broadly celebrates in this day our cultural identities, our liberation from colonialism, the resilience, the achievement of the continent, because the day itself came about when a group of countries came together and decided that until the whole of Africa as a continent it's liberated from colonialism, they are also not completely free. So it was a quest for unity, for solidarity, and to inspire the countries like South Africa that was still under the clutches of apartheid to keep on fighting until they were free. So this day now has become that remembrance day, that commemorative day, when we reflect on the journey that we have traversed as a continent and the achievement, the freedom that we have, albeit maybe not complete freedom. We're still fighting for economic emancipation, but the political freedom from the dominance of the colonialist, which is a first step towards total emancipation.
Oh, okay. And then, so this year's theme is, please do correct me if I'm wrong. It says beat the drum and silence the guns. Ne? What is the significance of this theme, particularly in the current African context?
We just tried to be a little bit creative, but we took the theme from the African Union Agenda 2063, one of the flagship program. It's called Silencing the Guns. Their target was 2020, but that target was not met. It has been extended by a decade until 2030. The idea behind Silencing the Guns is to encourage Africans to stop wars, conflicts, civil unrests, gender-based violence, and any form of violations, so that we can have total peace in Africa, because the belief is that until we have peace, we will not develop and move forward as a continent. A lot of resources are invested in the wars, in addressing gender-based violence. These are resources that must be geared and channeled towards economic emancipation and development. So the wars that we are fighting are dragging us backwards. So the vision by the African Union is that we must work collectively, individually, as communities, as nations, as inter-nations, for peace and stability, so that we can begin to focus on Africa's rebirth and development. So we stole that idea from that, but the drum, many people will say it's a heartbeat of our identities as Africans, and it unites our people from across language, across culture. Generally within the continent, we acknowledge and use the drum for ceremonies, for music, for rituals, for prayers. So people will say the drum connects us with the earth, Mother Earth. So when we beat the drums, which becomes a sign of communication and language. We are told that our elders in the past, if there was a horror in a community, they will beat a drum.
Yes.
And people will know through the sound of the drum that the king wants people to come together. If there was a funeral, they will beat the drum, and the sound of the drum will communicate different messages. So we are saying, let's, using the inspiration of the drum, come together, beat the drums for dialogue, for peace and stability. And that is why we came up with this theme.
With the thing. Thank you so much. And as we continue to witness conflicts and also instability in some part of Africa, Freedom Park was from Freedom Park's perspective, what role can heritage and memory play in promoting peace and also reconciliation?
I think the role that entities like Freedom Park, especially when we talk about memory, obviously historical and heritage sites, while they focus on the future, they base that future on the past. What are the lessons we learned from the past? And for us, the lessons from the past is that people came together to support us so that we can enjoy the freedom we have today. And as we look at this day, this Africa Day, as this conflict, why did these countries come together? Why did people like Solomon Mahlangu stood up to fight so that we can have the freedom? So we try to encourage people to remember that the freedom we enjoy today came at a price. And how then do we honor those who sacrifice for you and me to be here today? But we can honor them by building peace and stability in our communities so that we focus on the future. The sense of self-sacrifice that was given by many leaders, not just leaders, ordinary communities. So our role as Freedom Park, as an entity, is to remind people that we fought for freedom, we were resilient. And even at the face of the current challenges that we have, let's call upon the spirit of our forebears. Let's join hands and fight for total peace and stability in our communities. Let's fight against hunger. Let's fight against poverty. Let's fight against gender-based violence. And this is what entities like Freedom Park are there for, to remind us to draw upon the spirit that came before us to continue to fight.
Okay, so I'm going to jump my next question because already you've answered that one. So it says that the other question is, why is it important? Why is it important for young generation to understand the history of Africa's liberation struggles and the sacrifices made for freedom and also peace?
Okay, I think I'll just add. I think young people must remember, firstly, if we don't sustain this freedom, it can be taken away.
Yes.
We are seeing across the world, freedoms are being taken away every day. And sometimes when you listen to the geopolitics, you think South Africa may be next. So the young people must understand that now it is their responsibility to take the baton to protect and safeguard the freedom. As I said, it came at a price. Many sacrifices. Freedom Park has over 200,000 names, and research is ongoing. These are people who fought so that you and I can post what we want in social media. It's a freedom that somebody died for, but the young people don't understand that somebody died. They like gathering. Just over 34 years ago, Africans were not allowed to gather in a group of more than 5. We take it for granted when you attend a festival, a music festival. Few years ago, you could be arrested, you could be killed just for going to celebrate. You could be arrested for attending a funeral. It took blood and sweat by those who came. So we hope young people remember that and take that responsibility for building peace, sustaining the democracy that was fought for. And we learn from those who came before us. And that is why, as much as people say history and heritage is about the past. It's not about the past, in my view. It's about drawing lessons and inspirations and taking the struggles forward. We don't have to repeat the mistakes that were repeated.
Okay. And then how can ordinary citizens, and especially going back to the youth, contribute towards building a peace and a united Africa?
I think there is a lot, and it needs to start individually from our communities. We need to probably, as we celebrate and reflect on where we come from, encourage young people to be educated, encourage young people to come up with innovations, and maybe we need to question the education we get. I do think young people should be free to experiment, to innovate, and not to be educated so that they become employees, but to be educated so that they can create jobs. Through the arts, they can express themselves, but they can come up with solutions to many problems. Through innovation, you look around your community. What is my community struggling with? What kind of innovation can I bring to my community? So let's use education to bring solutions to the real problems within our communities. That is, for me, the true sense of education. And I think young people can start building from that, and not to look at government to create jobs or government to come up with solutions. Sometimes our leaders don't even understand the real issues within communities. So by engaging in dialogue, by taking leadership from where you are, you can't be an MEC or a minister if you can't lead your community. Start showing commitment and bring a difference where you are as a young person. Then you can build the nation.
Okay. Thank you so much. You speaking about the dialogue, ne? Freedom Park often speaks about dialogue and unity in practical terms. How can Africans strengthen solidarity across borders and cultures and also communities?
I think dialogue should be the bedrock of what we do. We need to start by talking, but sometimes I think as young people we miss an opportunity. Now we have access to social media. What is it that we are posting? What messages are we communicating? Maybe let's start a dialogue on positivity, on optimism, on inspirational messages that inspires others. So let's take responsibility on how we communicate. Yes, we can talk about dialogue. We come together face to face, but where we can't, technology has made it possible that you don't need to bring somebody from Kenya in South Africa. You can just sit behind your phone and talk and connect. So let's begin cross-border and intergenerational dialogues to build peace and stability. We're talking about the challenges that we face with the influx of people from other countries. Let's remember, firstly, that South Africa's freedom came through South Africans going to other countries when South Africa was unlivable. But as we always talk at Freedom Park about the hospitable host with South Africa, that we must be welcoming. But as we welcome people, we must not shy away from talking about the responsible guest, that when people come to our shores, they must come legally, and they must do the right thing. If I'm expected to pay rates and taxes, they must also pay. If I'm supposed to do something in a community respectfully, they must do that. So, but let's talk about this dialogue on how do we avail ourselves and support those who are in need, because we were supported. That is how we got our freedom. But how do we do that within the bounds of the law and responsibility? And how do we encourage our guests to be responsible guests in our country and not come to and damage our communities? So that dialogue, it's very important currently. And the media also has a role. media as a platform for communication, but media as in a form that everybody has access to media, social media. What messages? Anything you say can become inflammatory and sometimes without facts. Young people, do you even Google fact check before you post something? I mean, we see a lot of communications, don't drink this water, it's poison. But when you check, sometimes you find it's not even true. It's not a fact. So the same applies to peace and stability, the messages we send and how we send them. So let's start the dialogue, especially young people, on social media for education, for inspiration, and for positivity. And we can see a difference no matter how small.
Thank you so much. And going back to silencing the gun, what message would Freedom Park like to send to African leaders and communities regarding the importance of silencing the gun and prioritizing development?
I think we want to encourage, especially leaders, to be servant leaders and leaders of the people and not self-serving. Most of the challenges we experience within communities, including, as I was saying, people who are coming, they're running away from bad leadership and a mess that we are causing. Given where we come from, as we celebrate Africa Day, let's encourage our leaders to be responsible leaders that cares about communities, that cares about making a difference and a change that people can literally see, so that people can begin to feel at least the first steps of freedom and liberation. So we encourage them to do right by the people.
Oh, okay. And thank you so much. And then please tell us about the African program taking place on Freedom Park and what members of the public can expect.
We are going to have a wonderful day of drumming, and we invite the community to come and join us. We're starting at 8 a.m. We will have artists. Dr. Silo Halane is one of those, and many others. Abafazi Bengoma and many others who will be teaching us how to drum. We will have a panel of discussion which is intergenerational, where we will reflect on topics like social cohesion, nation and continent building, and what we can do individually as responsible African citizens and what Africa needs to go forward. So it will be a day of a mix of music, entertainment, storytelling, dialogue, but also we will open the park for those who visit to move around, to see the wall of names, to see the museums and other spaces and offerings at Freedom Park.
All right. And then just finally, your message to Africans and South Africans as we commemorate Africa Day.
My message is, let's be proud of who we are. Let's be proud of the achievement. Let's be proud of our culture and heritage. I love Marcus Garvey's saying, a people without knowledge of their past origin and culture are like a tree without roots. So let's celebrate who we are and we'll be better citizens.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor. And that was really such inspiring interview. And then the time is 32 minutes past 11, and that was Dr. Jane Mufamadi. And then, yeah, from there, the CEO of Freedom Park. And she's just not a CEO, ne? That is why I'm saying doctor. Thank you so much. And yeah, do enjoy the rest of the music. And we are still here on Capital Live FM.